Hey, this is Dave Britton with Lobo Business Sales LLC. I wanted to put together a podcast just to go over some of the current conversations that I seem to be having. And although a lot of them, the answers, I might personally have an idea on some of them. It's always best to speak to the professionals in those organizations. And a lot of these professionals are going to be your attorney and your accountant. Today, I want to welcome Melissa Britton. She's a certified public accountant licensed in Florida and New York. Am I right about that?
Correct.
Okay. And yes, she is my wife. So let me get that out there too. But with that says the qualifications, and if you look at the referrals and comments that she has on her website or Facebook page, I think they pretty much speak for themselves. With that said, Melissa, thank you for coming to the podcast. I think it's important that a lot of the business owners have questions out there. They don't really know where to turn to get these answers. So it was important that we put this together. So I know you're extremely busy right now with all the calls, especially with all these programs going on. So on behalf of everybody listening, myself, thank you for taking out a few moments of your time to discuss that. Getting started, what made you want to be an accountant? I mean, isn't like just looking at numbers and stuff like that boring?
No, I mean, from the time I was probably about 12 years old, I just was really interested in the economy and numbers and kind of just helping people.
What made you kind of go, gravitate towards the entrepreneur and business owners? I mean, they're sometimes they can be very grounded, sometimes they can be psychotic, and sometimes they can be all over the board. So, I know sometimes conversations can get a little loud. Sometimes it can be a little bit more calm. But out of all the niches, what made you decide to gravitate towards that?
For a couple of reasons. Predominantly, probably the main one was just that I was working for, larger regional local firms, dealing with, larger companies. And I was finding that the smaller companies that they were servicing were pretty much getting, I don't want to say ignored, but they weren't getting the kind of service that they deserved.
Perfect. Actually, that makes a lot of sense. We see that pretty much across the board in a lot of things. A lot of the boutique firms, at least you're sometimes you call and you actually get the owner. You're just not a number getting shuffled through the deck. And I think a lot of the current entrepreneur and business community appreciate that. Let's go ahead and get into the podcast of the questions that we're receiving. I think the first thing we want to talk about, and I want to separate this podcast into two sections. The first one is, let's really talk about the programs that are out there. There seems to be a lot of confusion, obviously, with social media. There's this person posting this and this one posting that. I think there's 4 or 5 different questions that are pretty much on people's minds, and getting it really from your professional perspective will really help out people. So I think the first question we want to ask is the biggest question we really see. Is there really free money out there? I mean, what is this PPP program that everybody's talking about and, saying, throwing their hands up and going, oh, there's free money. I don't have to do anything for it. Can you tell us what this PPP program is all about?
Sure. The PPP program is the Paycheck Protection Program. It's basically a program that was put out to kind of help small businesses under 500 employees kind of make up for some of this lost income that they're facing due to the pandemic. Okay.
Is there any other programs that business owners might qualify for? I think that there's 3 programs on the SBA website, but from your profession, your clients are normally contacting you on which type of programs and what should business owners be aware of that's out there?
Yeah, I mean, probably 95% of the clients that are contacting me are looking to apply for this PPP program. There's also an EIDL program, which is the Economic Injury Disaster Loan Program, which is put out by the SBDC and the SBA. It's a program that's sort of connected to the PPP that you can get in advance. They're advertising in advance. It's pretty much you're getting $1,000 per employee that you have. This is an advance on your PPP loan. And if your PPP loan is denied or if your EIDL loan is denied, then that turns into a grant.
So how does if it's my understanding correctly, it's the PPP that is the major one that is the quote unquote free money that
Correct.
people are talking about. And is this also the program that seems to keep on running out of money every 24 hours?
Yeah, it's the program that if your application's not already in, it's probably unlikely that you might get money unless they keep allocating more money towards this.
And I think the Senate passed something yesterday, as of the taping of this show, that went to the president to get signed. So hopefully, we'll see some good light on that, some additional funding. What are some of the common items that a business owner will need to offer for these type of programs? What are they going to be asked for, like P&Ls, tax returns, employees? What do they need to prove?
So the PPP program is pretty much payroll driven. So you're going to need your payroll records. If you have a payroll company, they're offering these reports that you can get from them that kind of give you most of the information that you need. If you're doing your own payroll, then you'll need your 941s, your 940, your W-2s, and things like that.
For people that don't understand what those terms mean, the 940 and stuff like that, is that something that they would just contact their accountant on, or CPA, or is it something that they would be able to find on IRS website or something like that?
So those are returns that they have to complete every quarter or annually. So whoever is handling their payroll for them should be able to get those reports.
Okay, I have to ask this question because I know there's business owners that are out there. What about people that they paid off the books? They're basically out of luck. Am I understanding that correct?
Yes, yeah. So, I mean, this is like, again, payroll driven. So you have to have W-2 employees.
Okay. I think some of the customers that are actually applying, they're wondering, what the status is of, their funding coming in, where they're kind of at in the cycle, if they're even going to get it, and sometimes getting calls back from the institution asking for different things. What are some of the roadblocks that you're seeing customers are facing right now, or calling you back saying, Melissa, I need this. I didn't know I needed this or this. What are there any roadblocks or paperwork that you're seeing that customers are facing that they can be a little bit more proactive and have it up front?
So pretty much, if you have payroll and you have your payroll records, that's pretty much what they're asking for. If you are a sole proprietorship, if you're self-employed, if you are a 1099 contractor, those types of applicants are required to provide either Schedule Cs and or 1099s that they're receiving from whoever's paying them.
Okay. Last question in this section was, do you have any suggestions for business owners, that need help? They might be like a deer in the headlights, kind of just, don't even know where to turn. I mean, the economy basically got shut off in one day, no fault of their own. And some, not some, a lot of people are scared out there. What should they do first? Instead of just, sitting and worrying, action makes a result. What actions should they do? What should they do?
Well, I mean, first off, they should take this time to get their books in order. I mean, that's the probably most important thing going forward. If they are fortunate enough to get some PPP money, they're going to need to have really good books and records to track the money going out so that they can get that portion of their loan, probably, maybe, potentially 100% of that loan forgiven.
Perfect. I want to go to the second part of the podcast, and this is more generalized, that is applicable to our current environment, but also applicable in business owners in general. And that's really, how does it, having an accountant or a professional CPA really benefit an owner? I mean, why should a business owner have an accountant? Is it really worth the money spent? What are the basic services that save time and energy for a business owner in the long run by outsourcing, some of these features? What are those? What are some of those services as an example?
So obviously, I think it's worth it. I'm a CPA. I would say probably bookkeeping, managing the bookkeeping, making sure things are categorized in the proper places, making sure that the bank accounts are reconciled, making sure that they're
having those bank accounts reconciled on a monthly basis. There's benefits to those sometimes, because you're able to see, maybe a landmine that you didn't see, that you, if you did it the other way, is waiting a whole year and saying, oh, this went wrong, and it went wrong back in February. But if by having an accountant bring this to your attention, it's sooner, so you can handle some of these. So these these little landmines are just something that you can take care of and work with your accountant up front. Am I correct on that? Does that sound about right?
Yeah, definitely. You don't want, just because you have cash in the bank doesn't necessarily mean you're profitable. So, looking and seeing what's actually happening and where the money is being spent and is beneficial on an ongoing basis, not just looking at the end of the year.
On the time aspects that a business, let's think of something common. A common business is a restaurant owner. So a restaurant owner has to worry about getting the supplies, the food, cooking the food, making sure the place is clean, maintaining all licenses, permits, making sure the roof doesn't leak, advertising, all these different things. Is taking some of that burden off their shoulders. What are some of the things that you're doing as an accountant and CPA that takes off some of that burden, so they can actually work on their business instead of always in their business getting dragged in 100 different ways, like, I don't know, sales and use tax reports or something. What are some of those things that you can offer as a professional CPA?
Well, oversight and processing of payroll, we can process and pay their sales tax. We can maintain their books, making sure that they're taking proper advantage of the most tax deductions. We can file their annual tax returns. We can provide advice going forward, just making sure that their gross profits is on target with what they should be in their industries, making sure they're not spending too much money on certain things. Those are things that you kind of watch as you're maintaining your books and records. And if they're not doing that on an ongoing basis, it's kind of hard to see, you're overspending or you're not charging enough.
Most business owners have their companies in LLCs or Incs, whether they're flow-through entities, or a C Corp or something like that. When taxes are being done, is there any benefit to having the personal returns and the business returns done by the same professional?
Oh, absolutely. You definitely, having the same professional do both returns puts you in a better place than if two different. Having the same professional do it allows you to know both sides of the equation.
Perfect. There's confusion there's so many different terminologies for job titles and stuff like that are out there. Some people get confused, and I think in the accounting profession, from my understanding, there's basically three titles that we see tossed around. And if you can just quickly elaborate, a little bit of the differences. Once is the bookkeeper versus the accountant versus the CPA. What's the difference? Can't a bookkeeper do everything, and can't a CPA do everything? Why are there so many different titles? Don't they all do the same thing?
You can have a really good bookkeeper who's capable of filing taxes, just like you can have a really bad CPA who has been educationally trained and doesn't really know what they're doing.
Are there different licensing requirements for these, the different terminologies that are held?
So a bookkeeper and an accountant don't need to be licensed. The only person who holds a license is a CPA or an enrolled agent.
Wow. Okay. The business owner, each business obviously has different characteristics and stuff like that. How does a business owner really know what they need? How do they know if they are going to be fine with just working with a bookkeeper to help them with the books and maybe file a return versus working with a CPA that is an all-encompassing for everything? How do they really know what they need? Where should they start on something like that?
Well, I mean, it's always good to have a consult with a CPA and get that initial free consultation.
Okay. Is there anything that a business owner can do to minimize their cost for accounting services? As an example, is if they're able to do some of their basic bookkeeping by themselves and provide that to an accountant, does that help in any way, or is it overly burdensome on one side versus the other, versus cost versus the savings that it incurs?
No, I mean, definitely doing some of the work themselves. For example, setting up, getting QuickBooks online and getting it all streaming in and monitoring it from that side definitely does help. And then having a CPA come in on a quarterly basis, kind of to do the oversight and review the bank recs and do the bank recs and reconcile all that after the fact would definitely help. Not mixing business expenses and personal expenses in the same bank accounts.
Good point.
Definitely would be a benefit, because that just takes a lot of time to sort through and separate.
The final question in this section was, on the business broker side, I always suggest whenever I speak to somebody, to speak to 3 or 4 different business brokers, business intermediaries, certified business intermediaries. We have lots of titles in our profession also, because you have to find out who's right for you. But when researching an accountant to use, what questions, if any, should a business owner be asking if they're calling 2 or 3 to compare and find out what's who's right for their particular business? Is there anything as far as experience level, what types of businesses you work on, fees charged?
I think if you're dealing with a CPA, the CPA obviously is licensed. They've had educational training. They're required to do continuing education on an annual basis, 80 hours every 2 years. So you should be getting a qualified individual. So putting the qualifications aside, it's really about relationships, and it's really about, do you feel comfortable with that person, and are they going to take care of you, and are they going to be your trusted advisor?
Is it important to have somebody that, as an example, if you work in the construction field, is that something that you want to ask your accountant, or are numbers just numbers? Is it? So
there's obviously certain industries that are more specialized than others. Construction is one of them. Construction, real estate are definitely 2 specialized industries. Manufacturing is another one.
Okay. Like I said, I want to thank you for, on behalf of the people listening and for myself, for taking the time out. Just summarizing out the last couple items is, how can a business owner who's needing professional accounting, how can they get in touch with you? Are you currently offering any discounts, payment plans during the current economic environment? I mean, does everybody have to pay for a year up front, or can they spread out payments or something like that? And how would they even contact you to get a consultation?
Yes, definitely. I mean, I'm trying to work with everybody I possibly can to give them the best service, and understanding the current state of the economy that we're in.
Do you have a website or a Facebook page that they can go to?
I do. Website is www.brittonaccounting.com. That's BRITTON accounting, ACCOUNTING.com.
When they contact you for the initial consultation, how much should they expect to spend for that 15?
Initial consultations are 100% free.
All right, perfect. Last thing is there any final words of wisdom for a business owner today? Any encouragement suggestions? I mean, people are scared out there. People are worried. What can you as a CPA let them know as some final words of wisdom that they should be doing?
I mean, I think definitely just getting the books in order is probably the most important thing. Just being prepared for any kind of future issues and things that come up. Give me a call, 813-469-7886, and we can talk more about that.
That sounds great. Once again, this is great information on the programs out there. Hopefully got out some of the misconceptions, provided a little bit more clarity also on the programs, but also on what an accountant and CPA does for current business owners. This is Dave Britton with Lobo Business Sales, LLC. I was hosted here with Melissa Britton, my beautiful wife, with Britton Accounting and Consulting. Once again, take advantage of that. It's the initial consultation is complimentary and, of course, confidential. 813-469-7886. Thank you. Stay safe, and God bless.
Thank you.